Welcome to NomadMedia Automotive Tales, where we tell vehicle stories, a little bit of history, and some unique and personal experiences. Let's get right into it. Welcome back, and today I'm here with Randy Withrow and the 1940 Ford Pygmy, VIN number 1. This is the very first military Jeep ever made for the military, to my understanding, and we're sitting here today at the U.S. Veteran Memorial Museum in Huntsville, Alabama. If you've never been, you should definitely come down here and check it out. They've got so much stuff here, including like this historical vehicle, and as you can see right here, it's registered. It's got the historical vehicle registry right here with it. Like, it's an amazing vehicle to see in person. They have so much other stuff here. They've got tanks, helicopters, motorcycles, guns, all sorts of cool stuff. Definitely take a minute to come and see it. If you haven't seen it, it's over here at Airport Road.
Yeah.
And this is in South Huntsville.
Right.
So be sure you come and check it out. But as for now, I'm here with Randy. We're going to get into telling you about this Jeep and some of the history here, because Randy's actually the person who went and tracked this Jeep down and found it. Please, Randy, tell us your story, man.
Well, first of all, we're talking, this is GP-No.1, the pilot model made by Ford. Mm-hmm. But prior to that, the concept was, let's acknowledge, American Bantam in Butler, Pennsylvania. They are the ones that came up with the original concept. But the Army didn't understand what capabilities American Bantam had. So they invited all the manufacturers to come and look at that, and we're talking 1940, and submit their own pilot models. Only Ford and Willis did. And this is Ford's number 1. They don't know what happened to the Bantam number 1 or the Willis number 1, but this was given to the Henry Ford Museum by Henry Ford II.
Okay. And
it was in the Ford Museum until 1982. They decided to auction a great number of vehicles as excess, and this was one they auctioned. After they did the pilot models, they bought 1,500 prototypes from Ford, Willis, and Bantam. And I was on the trail of a Ford prototype when a fellow told me, hey, they're going to be auctioning off number 1, and you know, you should try for that. And being the person I am, I went, yeah. And that was at the Ford Museum, Greenfield Village, in Dearborn, Michigan.
So you were searching for a prototype, and
didn't expect this at all.
Were you searching for for your personal collection or for like the museums? I know it's in the museum.
For the museum to be, yes.
Okay, so
yes.
It's not a personal collection item for you.
This whole thing is, everything I've done, I've assembled for the museum.
Okay.
And that was the objective. It all is for the museum.
If you don't mind me asking, if you know, how many vehicles have you amassed in this museum for these purposes?
Gee, I don't. We always say there's 40 vehicles, but we have a lot of things that we don't have room to display.
Okay.
And we're going to expand. The city's going to build another 15,000 square feet, so we'll be able to get our World War I Liberty truck in, our M36 Jackson tank destroyer, the Patton command car. We've got several other things to come in here.
And if any of that sounds interesting to you, I hope I get to come back and talk to them about it. But if not, come to Huntsville and check it out. But
yes.
Let's get back to your story here. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to deviate there too much.
No, you did fine. So having heard that, I scheduled a trip to take some Jeep parts to a friend in Chillicothe, Ohio, and then drove all night and hung out until the auction. Now, I had the catalog for the company that managed the auction was Hudson Marshall out of Macon, Georgia. And I was going during that time to Fort Stewart. And so I called and asked about the catalog, which cost $50 then, but that was your admission to the auction. Did it have a picture of the vehicle in it? And the nice lady said, yes, yes it does. And I said, well, can I come by and look at that and decide whether or not I want to buy that? And she said, absolutely. So when I saw the picture, my jaw dropped because only the pilot models have this double scallop side.
Okay, so this
When I saw that picture, that really is number one. So I had to do it, and that's what I scheduled to do. Went to our friendly Redstone Credit Union, borrowed all I could borrow, got it in $1,000 cashier's checks, and went loaded for bear.
So let me ask you then. We mentioned how you were searching for the prototype, not number one.
Right.
And this kind of came out of like
I'd be
left
happy
field.
with one of the 1,500.
Yeah, it's like how did it make you feel that you have the opportunity to buy number one? I don't know if you had like a fierce auction battle or not, but it's like one of those things. It's like the excitement I can only imagine.
Well, having never been to the big auction type things, I was like dumbstruck the way it went. And this was in September, and it was kind of chilly. They had a circus tent with sawdust, and they didn't drive any of the vehicles through. They pulled them through, and it was cold back there on the back where I was. So I moved up behind the rope, if you will. And this is one of the first things they auctioned off. They did 2 or 3 things before they got to a Rolls Royce and the first production Thunderbird and one of the Kennedy Lincolns, some really significant stuff. But they didn't really note anything on this. I asked the curator of transportation, why are you selling this? And he said, well, it's just something else Ford did. You know, maybe they'll get a regular Jeep for the Main Street USA, you know. And I suggested, yeah, you get one of the pink ones with the Surrey on the fringe on top. It turns out they did. So when this came up, I'm sitting there, and I bid like $1,000. Well, somebody in the back bid, and I instantly bid another $1,000. And within about 10 seconds, I maxed out. But they had a shield. You know what a shield is? It's one of the auction people next to me then, because I was
You're a player.
fast player, and they just decided, well, enough of this, sold, boom. And then people started clapping, and I really thought they were making fun of me, but it turns out later that if it's spirited and the bidding is really active, then they recognize that. So, yeah.
So they didn't even know that you were talking about using this for a museum then?
Yeah, no, they didn't care. But I bid every penny I had. And then I signed a contract. I go over to the tent to pay it, and they wanted Michigan sales tax. Well, I didn't have the Michigan sales tax. So I said, I'll just put that on my credit card. No, sir, we don't accept credit cards. And I said, well, we got to do something here. And they agreed to take the credit card.
Well, that's good.
So I went to the wire, and that was it. So it worked out real well.
That's amazing. I love to hear that too, that you got it down here. And honestly, I don't know y'all this well, not yet at least. And it's I can't imagine it being in a better place than this. Like, people out there, y'all don't understand what we're sitting in front of right now. And I'm not going to pan the camera. You have to come here and check it out. You see this, and it's wild. It blows your mind. I'm sure they've got stories to tell on each of these things, which you're going to hear at least some of them here on the channel, hopefully, coming up. We're going to have at least 2 videos, hopefully a lot more, but, so stay tuned for that.
And subsequently, we did get a prototype Ford GP, prototype Bantam BRC, and a prototype MA, and one of the first standardized Jeeps. So this is the keystone of the Jeep collection.
Yeah, and I mean, the Jeep collection here is very impressive, and I'm kind of looking off at it here so everybody can tell, like, we're sitting right in front of it. Like it's very impressive, and you know, I can't wait to figure out what the actual differences is between all of them, because for someone like me, I'm a car guy, and I still couldn't tell you the difference here. These just look like a row of military Jeeps to me.
Well, true, and a lot of people come here, it's just Jeeps. That's 90% of the people. But 10% of the people, some of which came from Australia or England or Germany, come here to look at this and the prototypes. So it's pretty good.
So coming back to this Jeep right here, I don't know if there's more history to tell on it or not. Like if there is, tell us that. Like tell us some more of the history on this Jeep.
Well, when Ford went and looked at the Bantam, they then in 30 days hand built this in the Ford experimental garage, and the restrictions were the only 4-cylinder engine they had available was the 9N Ford Tractor, which is a tractor type engine.
And let me confirm, like the Bantam was the competitor.
The Bantam and the Willys would be competitors, and the Bantam had a Continental engine because they didn't make engines. And the Willys used the Go Devil engine, which was in the 41 Willys cars. And it was too heavy, and the overall weight of the Willys was too heavy. But this had 40 horsepower, and the Willys had like 54 horsepower, so it outperformed all of them. So when the spec was done, as they did the prototypes, they added the improvements along the way, and so each one was a step improved. But they selected the Willys for the main contract, even though it didn't meet the spec. And then they realized, then again, who's Willys, they'll never be able to produce in a time of war. So they asked Ford to come in, and Ford came in and built 280-something thousand Ford production Jeeps. GP-W is what they call those.
And I think I've actually heard that one before.
Yeah, GP is the definition GP. Some people say, well, that's how it became Jeep, GP. But in Ford's language, G was a government contract and P was an 80-inch wheelbase. And then when they made the standard ones, it was GP Willys design, GPW. And so those parts all interchange. They had to be able to interchange.
And so there you go. If you're wondering why we're calling this a Ford Jeep, because everybody today is thinking Jeep, that's under Chrysler's banner now, if I'm not mistaken. So it's quite it's going to be a curveball right there for a lot of people. Like.
And it isn't the first Jeep, it is the first Ford. The first one was the Bantam.
The first Ford GP Jeep.
GP-No.1.
And it's impressive here, man. It's very impressive. Don't let me interrupt here. Like if
no. But the engine they had to use was available to them was that tractor engine. Tractor engines have an updraft carburetor, so early in the testing, they determined that drowned out, sucked up water. So they carved out the hood and part of the fender and came up with a downdraft carburetor, which worked much better. And the transmission, that is a modified Model A Ford transmission, like in the 28 to 31 Fords. But it is a rock box tough, whereas the Bantam and the Willys use a little T84 transmission that is really weak. In fact, the Willys ones, they couldn't get the floor shift in time, so the Willys prototype is a shift on the column.
So talking about that transmission then, coming out of a Ford Model A, as soon as you said that, the first thing my mind went to, oh God, this is an unsynchronized, like,
it is.
Monster,
totally, rock. But it's tougher than any of those others. They would have been much better off to go with that. But that's not the standard that they used, so they went to the other. Same thing, like the gas tank on this is under the driver's seat.
I'm looking at it right here. I was kind of wondering, like,
you'd think that's dangerous as all get out. Under the driver's seat. Well, the Bantam and the Willys gas tanks were like conventional cars at the time, between the rear frame members, and it got bent and punctured and you're out of business. This guy's protected under here, and it became the standard. All the World War II Jeeps have it under the gas tank. The last Jeep made, the 151 series Mutt, it's under the seat, and I don't know of any problems that they had with it.
Let me ask you, so there's a lot of people out there that are probably familiar with seeing the Jeeps come out of a box and someone assembling them really
And
quick.
they really did that.
Is this one of them?
No, it was
Okay, so this isn't one of the
factory built. But during
So I was thinking like, I'm sorry, but to bring that up there about the gas tank, you know, I'm thinking even with the gas tank here below the seat, it's probably a much easier to put it in that like real quick configuration and everything, which I'm looking at the handlebars here. That's why I wanted to ask this, because I'm sure plenty of people out there have seen that.
Right.
You know, so I was wondering if this was one of them or if this is
But
where they came
the
from.
Jeep in the box, though, that was done during World War II.
Okay.
For shipping, because they could, when they created them, the wheels weren't on it, the windshield wasn't on it, and they actually boxed them. They could have more in the cargo space, and then when they got to their destination, they had a mini assembly line putting them back together. So yes, they really did that. And you know, that's always the rumor, is that somewhere there's Jeeps in a crate. I'm pretty sure in 80 years they've all been found and used by now. But I'm still
searching.
I'm still
just to
up
make
for
sure.
it.
Like, hey, if you find one,
yeah.
the U.S. Veterans Memorial Museum in
Yep.
Huntsville may be interested.
Yep. Yeah, that would have been a good display too, wouldn't it?
It would, like,
Yeah.
have the actual box and just
Right.
take the wall
Well, I had
down
a
or
friend
something?
that made reproduction of one, but another friend, museum in Gettysburg, decided he really wanted it, so
More
it's
so.
at that museum.
Well, coming back here to this Jeep then, like you told us about the transmission and the motor here. Is there anything to say about the interior here or something
Well,
along
yeah,
those lines?
the speedometer is 60 miles an hour.
Will
but
it
it's-
actually go 60?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But it has the shift patterns, because that speedometer was out of like a 1-ton truck. So you can't make those shift points. And the prototype ones, they have a pickup a speedometer in it, which goes to 100 miles an hour. You can't do that either. But it was, like I say, it was what they had available.
Well, yeah, in wartime,
Off the shelf,
in
yeah.
wartime, a lot of the time, a lot of the mentality is like, just spit it out there. We have to have it.
Yeah.
You know, so when
Yeah.
it comes to the quality of these things, the quality may not necessarily be there. It's kind of
Right.
hobbled together, but it works, it serves its purpose, and it gets things done. If they have 100,000 parts that are for the Ford truck of the time or whatever,
Then you use it.
they use
Yeah.
that. They use whatever they can and put
Yep.
it in there and let it go during wartime. So
Right.
that's
And-
where I can imagine a lot of these speedometers being 100 miles an hour. Like I asked you about the 60, I'm like, I'm very surprised something of
I'm
this
okay
age.
with the 60, but to see the GI getting in there thinking this will do 100 miles an hour, no.
I mean, your door here is definitely going to keep you
there's your
safe.
seat belt. It's a door safety strap. It keeps you from flying out. You
And
know?
this is a very interesting piece to me, at least, because this is like an old canvas
yeah, it's
belt.
web. It's web. Yeah. Yeah.
Like this is very interesting to me because I see these things like people on the channel or there's probably heard about me talking about my old vehicles in here. This makes me think about the hood straps
Yes.
on my old
Yes.
wrecker is actually
That's right.
this right here.
That was a part of the technology at the time, and that's what anything that they had in production that they could use, and I guess I may show you later. They developed a lot of the features on this became standard for the Jeep, like that gas tank under the seat. They had a tubular steel windshield,
Yep.
and
You can
one
see
of the
this
others
here.
had a little wiry boat windshield, which didn't hold up. So this became the standard. And then Ford came up with an idea that the headlights under the hood there are protected behind the grill, and they also have hinges on them, so you can fold them back and shine the light on the engine and work on it at night. And those hinges are pickup door hinges.
Oh, wow.
And when you look at it, you can see. And the radiator in this is still in the white. It had never been painted or anything. And the outlet on the bottom of it faced forward. So there is a crude S pipe going back to the engine.
Wow.
I mean, and like I say, when they went with the downdrive carburetor, they just carved out part of the fender well and banged in part of the hood so it would clear the carburetor. And then you keep going.
Yeah, they just come up with anything, make it work,
Yeah.
and then like let's do it. Like,
Let's do it.
You know, and that's amazing. Like, cause coming up with things like that, like the headlight thing. Honestly, I love that. Like
Yeah.
thinking about like not just the cover for it, cause like obviously my car is mentioning them again. Like Dodge Charger's got the cut hideaway headlights to protect the headlights, but being able to flip your headlight back.
Right.
To like actually work on your engine. I'm like, that's very creative, and especially like if you put yourself in the situation out there, just think about it. You're down at night and you're having engine troubles in the middle of Iraq or wherever they were at. You know, wherever they were at. I guess Iraq is where people will know now, but you're out there in enemy territory at night, your engine's gone or something's wrong with the engine, and you have no, like, you don't want to turn a headlight or a light on and like give away your position. Just flip your headlights back, and now you've got an engine bay light.
Right, and then if you're in blackout conditions, you just put a blanket over that so the light doesn't show.
Yeah, that probably evolved into the hood light, honestly.
Yeah.
But
yes, it may well have. I hadn't thought about that.
It probably evolved into the under hood light. So, but there you go.
It's
coming from military
innovation.
Yeah,
yeah, and it's good innovation too.
Yeah, that's a cool idea.
And the tires on these, these are later tires. The Ford Museum. By the way, this never belonged to the government. It was given by Ford for testing, returned to Ford. So for that reason, that's how come it got in the Ford Museum.
This would still kind of be considered a prototype, basically.
Well, it's pre-prototype.
Pre-prototype.
Well, I think by weird definition, the pilot is the thing. This is what we're looking at, but the prototype is pre-production. This is what we're going to make.
Okay.
Yeah, we get tangled into the difference between prototype and pilot. I say this is a pilot. Some people do say prototype, but I'm looking at all these as actual prototypes.
It's really close, not quite.
Like, it's a matter of phonetics or definition.
Yeah, and not to run off of these tires.
Oh yeah,
here.
the tires. They didn't. These tires are a bit later. Ford, when they had it in the museum, they put some regular World War II non-directionals on it. But before they had the non-directionals, these tires are all V'd, and that's the direction that they'll pull in. In other words, if you had the spare here, the spare will pull in that direction, and if you put it on the other side, if you have a flat, it's not going to grip, not going to grab the ground as well. Now, the World War II one, the ones they had a bar, a solid bar connected in. But in the post-war use, these were Firestones. The side profile is exactly correct, but this mold went to Japan, Firestone, and they used it on garden tractors. And so when they did that, they eliminated the connector because you're not going to be driving on the street. And with that solid strip, it gives you a whole lot smoother ride. And with it like that, it's a bit bumpy. So it's a bit bumpy.
I tell you, when I look at these tires, like, so for anyone out there that's not used to like tractor tires, I guess, a lot of people out there are probably used to seeing four-wheelers. Like, this looks like a four-wheeler tire to me if I've ever seen one. Now, I've seen four-wheeler tires that look exactly like that. Tractor, I think, is more, it's more closely resembling, but it makes me just, it screams four-wheeler tire in my head. And yeah, that's a very, very aggressive tire there, and I'm like, I'm sure that would work perfectly on a four-wheeler.
Because that was the reason, you know, it was a tractor tire, but that's what they had available. And as a result of this, they came out with a non-directional. Non-directional has bars in it. The reason they say non-directional is it'll pull even if it's on the other side. It's the same.
And I'll try to show a picture here at least of that.
So the others have that.
So I can see that these, I'm pretty sure these are ones you're referring to.
These have the non-directional.
So I will definitely show a picture here so you can get the comparison side by side, but you'll see the difference. This is very aggressive compared to that. And that tends to be more what I think when I see military. So when I see this, knowing that this is #1 and me being able to put two and two together.
That is why it's different,
Yeah.
So we decided that this would be more representative, and at the time I could get those, and this was years ago. You can't now if you wanted to. They don't do it anymore. I guess
tires.
you'd have to go to Japan to get them. And
four-wheeler tires.
Yeah.
You'll get something close.
But this is with the side profile exactly. And if that solid bar, if they hadn't eliminated that, but it gives us a whole lot more of the originality of it by doing that. But other than that,
Definitely.
we have not restored that.
Okay, so this is the way you got it.
Right. We did some work on it to rebuild the carburetor, clean out the gas tank, redo the brakes, because it runs and drives.
Yeah.
We have a video out there where we recreated one of the test videos. We put 3 guys in here in World War II overcoats, the 2 with the BAR, Browning automatic rifles, just like they have in the testing. And we go bumping through this field that was out here, and it's pretty interesting.
I will see if I can get a copy of that
Yeah,
video and put it in
it's
here
out
if I
there.
can. And if I can't, go look for it. I'll try to link it in the description
Yeah,
below.
I think somebody has posted it under YouTube, USVMM or something. And there's several kind of what I say stupid videos out there where somebody videos us moving the tank in, moving the tank out, moving the half track. Some of it's interesting, some of it make you wonder.
It makes me wonder how you get anything out of here with how much is stuffed in here.
It is
But I know
fun.
it's possible.
It is fun. All these Jeeps run.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you said something about an idle test. Well, I don't keep a battery in this because
So,
yeah.
mentioning the idle test here, everybody's probably accustomed to it. This will not be happening today, but if I can find a running video of it, I will include it in this video for you. So if you're sticking around for that, sorry to disappoint you, but
Yeah, but you
not today.
need to see that video. It's somewhat interesting.
Well, like I say, I'm going to hunt it down. If I can find it, it will be linked in the description. If I find it, if I can get it where I can actually include it, I'm going to do that. But
Well, the camera they used, it highlights, it smokes a bit, blue
Okay.
smoke, and everybody said, "Wow, man, look at that!" And I went, "Well, hey, it's 80 years old. If it wants a cigar, let it have a cigar." But I'm not tearing into that motor,
yeah, I wouldn't
and
touch
that's
it.
what it amounts to is the rings are getting weak.
When it comes down to, a lot of people have probably seen Jay Leno's Garage or something like
Yeah,
that, and he's got
yeah.
a bunch of classic cars. Now,
Yeah.
I don't know, I know a lot of his cars in there, but I don't know all of them. I don't know if he has any military stuff, but when it comes to his old cars, a lot of his parts he has to actually make. He has to
Right.
produce, he has to be the manufacturer for them. And I can imagine with something like this that, whether you want to call it a prototype or a pilot or however you want to classify it in your own words, because that's for the people out there, I can't imagine this engine's probably a standard thing under there. So you're probably going to be looking for parts that don't exist.
Well, a good bit of it you can get as 9N tractor engine, but that Holley carburetor, that's the only one because they improved it more when they did it on the prototypes.
Right.
So, yeah, that's it. And they put a fuel pump on it because the tractors had downdraft for the updraft carburetor.
Right.
They had gravity feed, and since this was not, they did put a mechanical fuel pump on it, and that's one of your ways you can tell if that's a tractor or if that's a GP engine.
Okay.
Yeah. So we were talking about the auction. Like I say, when my friend told me that number 1 was going to be auctioned off, I didn't believe it. It was hard to conceive, but the company that was managing the auction was Hudson Marshall out of Macon, Georgia, and I was going to Fort Stewart, and I called the lady for the $50 catalog. I thought I needed to know did it have a picture of that. She assured me it did, and I could come by and look at it, and when I did, my jaw dropped because when I saw the double scallop side, I knew that it had to be the pilot model, which is holy mackerel significant. So I bought the catalog and then later arranged a trip to go take some parts to a guy in Chillicothe, Ohio,
Yeah.
and then drove all night and waited for the auction and was able to get it. And it went in about 10 seconds, boom, boom, boom. So it was pretty brisk bidding.
Man, and to have such a piece of history too, because I mean, it's very impressive. I mean, it is a very impressive vehicle, especially since it's not restored. You know,
Right.
It's
Yeah,
very,
yeah.
very impressive that this is here, and I'm sure there's a lot of people that couldn't imagine this would be in Huntsville, Alabama.
Right. Why this? Well, where would it be otherwise? I mean, I would have
Ford
thought
Museum.
that it would be in the Ford Museum, but
Yeah.
as I mentioned earlier, I asked the curator of transportation why they were selling it, and he said, well, that was just something else that Ford did, and he didn't think there was that much interest in it. And for their Main Street thing, they may get a Jeep, and I suggested they get the pink Jeep with the Surrey
Right.
top, and someone told me they did.
They did get
It
it.
suits them right. Yeah, but you know, I was dismayed, but I'm not going to say, well, that's,
Hey, it's to each their own, right?
yeah, right.
To each their
That's
own.
what you want to do.
This one, in my opinion, is much cooler than that. So.
Yeah. Oh gosh, that other is just what do you think?
Yeah.
But before I'm paying the thing out, somebody came up and they didn't think that it would be sold so quickly, early, and offered me great money for that contract. And but my thing was, well, I didn't get it to sell it; I got it to save it.
Yeah.
And therefore is not for sale.
Definitely.
And then a week or so later, somebody from the Ford Museum called me and said someone in California was trying to contact them about this. Could they give them my information? And I said, certainly. And I told the guy the same thing.
Yeah.
That wasn't the point. And I'm sure we could profit from it, but you'd really lose. You wouldn't be profiting.
You would lose number one.
Yeah, and it becomes the keystone that we later got all the prototypes, you know, the Ford Willys and the Bantam. The Ford prototype that we ultimately got was in Life magazine, January the 3rd, 1944, a feature story about it. So if you got your Life magazines out, there's even a video out there on that GP. The Army sent a crew to Kansas where that one went and filmed it. It's strictly GI honorable discharge. And it is so funny because it's got it talking as it's like a New Jersey, the accent of the Jeep. It's pretty good. And so, you know, it became the incentive to do everything. I didn't mention earlier, but we also have a Ford GPA, which is the amphibious Jeep with a hull, a rudder, and a propeller. And the big GMC, the big truck amphibian did well, but the little GPA didn't have a lot of freeboard on the side, and it wasn't too good, you know, as far as in rough water, it didn't work out.
So definitely come up here and try to check
Yeah,
them
you're gonna
out.
need to see that.
Yeah. Well, Randy, man,
Yep.
I greatly appreciate you giving me the time here today. This is it's an honor to be able to come here and do this. Like, this is a wonderful museum. Like I keep mentioning here, there's so much stuff to see here. So be sure if you get the chance, come on up here and check it out.
Absolutely.
Especially if you like military history. You know, I appreciate what y'all do here. You know, I appreciate all of y'all's service as well. Like the veterans, like, you know, I do everything I can to support the veterans, and everybody should. You know, so what y'all are doing here is great. But with that, you know, you have a piece of history here. Like, this is history. And it's very cool, and I'm sure it's a story that you love telling, you know, where it's like, I have the first Jeep. Like, I mean, it's for the museum, but you have the first Jeep, you know, so it's very cool. But is there anything that you may like to tell anyone out there that may be watching this, or anything that you just want to pass along?
No, but if they get the opportunity, come and see these. If you're into Jeeps at all, you can compare and contrast, because we have not only all the World War II ones, we have every Jeep.
Yeah, they have a massive collection here.
Right, and we have one of the Humvee pilot models that didn't get selected. The Humvee's made by Amgen, but General Dynamics and Teledyne Continental also competed. So we have Teledyne Continental's serial number 1. It's called the loser. It lost the contract.
They've got a lot
so
of
it's
stuff.
a loser, but yeah.
Yeah, they've got a lot of stuff here, man.
Yep.
Well, man, I greatly appreciate your time and
Absolutely.
everything. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for having us
It's been
over.
a wonder, man. But with that, if you get the chance, come see the U.S. Veteran Memorial Museum. It's Airport Road, and
Just off the South Parkway, get off on Airport Road and follow the signs.
if you put it in Google, it will come up, because that's how I got here. So.
Does it? Good.
Yes. So if you get the chance, come on up here and see him. But with that, we'll see you in the next one. Peace.
Thank you.
you at the next car show.
And there you have it, guys. Be sure you like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.